Hello, welcome. My name is Austin, and I will be doing my case study on a late game level within Cyberpunk 2077. It is as I said, a towards the end portion of the game, so it will technically be a spoiler, assuming you chose this path, but that is the warning out of the way. And I will say also ahead of time, my recording software is having a bit of issues, so the video quality is slightly below par, but we make do. But we'll be going over a couple of things like how the level is laid out, what it encourages the player to do, along with a couple extra things sprinkled around here and there. So yeah, let's get into it. Before we jump feet first into this analysis and discuss all of its bits and bobs, I want to talk about the goals of this particular level. As previously stated, this is an endgame level, meaning that this should be a point where we are using the skills we've accumulated while progressing through the story. A quote-unquote teaching aspect, so to speak, is not as present in this level compared to some from the beginning. Chronologically, the teaching of mechanics and whatnot has already been done, so now it is time to show what we've learned and execute them. And before this mission, you were given a slew of weapons and gear, and this fact is the game telling you, it's now or never, show us what you got. We're gonna throw the challenges at you. This notion is evident in enemy strength and, as you see later, enemy numbers. While we go through a bit of rudimentary combat here, I'd like to take a second to discuss the level structure. With this mission in particular, there are two very clear routes that make this level semi-linear. You can save the NPC named Wayland, that is the choice to follow Rogue, or you can abandon him to progress forward immediately. A dialogue option was given earlier in the game, before this clip, to make this decision, but as seen on the HUD, it is still optional to follow Rogue. Either option you choose will end with you reaching the elevator at the end of the level, and in my particular clip here, I chose to save Wayland, so that is what we will be going through. At this point, we're a bit into the level, but it is quite apparent where a lot of the design inspirations come from. The space has very large contrast within itself, but it is very clear that we are in a jungle and that there's a lot of tropical inspiration, but a large portion of it is also inspired by futurism and modern notions as well. You could see shiny, minimalist gray structures cutting through all the dense brush, and I personally think that these aesthetic choices are to drive home the corporate dystopia that this world is. The sleek, modern, shiny bridges are disrupting and splitting all the greenery, and even the jungle itself is located within a large building. You can't quite see this in this clip, but it is actually located within a large tower, and I think this further cements the fact that nature has been subjugated to humanity and corporations. Diving a little deeper into the design and layout in the level, we can see how it guides the player. We can see how the environment is used to direct which way the player will choose to go. And this is evident right off the bat. With our first opening shot, we are completely surrounded by shrubs and foliage. The only area in clear view is directly ahead of us, where an enemy is standing. This is focusing the player's point of view, and the line of sight, directing the player's attention towards that enemy, towards the way of progression. In terms of other environmental forms of direction, there is a segment where the player has to follow an NPC, but the jungle is quite dark. There's a pretty blatant trail of red flares that we follow to move forward, and it's a pretty easy way of directing the player without making it as obvious as just follow the NPC. It's a little more subtle, but a very effective way of influencing the player's choice. Now I want to spend a little time talking about the speed and pace of movement in this level, and it varies quite a bit, and a lot of the factors that we mentioned previously are actually what contribute to that variance. Some examples of the things that dictate the pacing of this level are the environment, the NPCs, and the combat, and most of these things are used to slow down the player. You could, in theory, just run up, shoot everything, and go straight to the end of the level, but a lot of these other factors are what slow down and try to make the player take a more stealthy approach to it. The environment and all the brush is limiting, it's narrow and dark. It's hard to move around, it's hard to find the right path initially, and this encourages a slower playstyle. You have to find where to go. You have to get to an area with more light and so on. So this, combined with the slow movement of the NPC we're supposed to follow, Rogue, encourage a more slow-paced playing through of this particular level. As a last bit of analysis, we can talk about the ending. The key function of the ending in this particular level is how it changes the feelings of the player simply by using space. The entire level is actually quite large, even though we are typically following a predetermined narrow path. You can explore this jungle as you feel free to. There is nothing stopping you from going to the edge of the map in either direction, and it is actually quite spacious. But while it is spacious, it is very low lit, and enemies could be anywhere. It does a very good job at making the player feel suspense, because there could be an enemy in the jungle, and you could be attacked. And all of that feeling of suspense dissipates as we arrive at an elevator. This change of scenery takes away the mystery of the dark jungle. You know that you cannot be attacked, and you know that there is no place for an enemy to hide. It is a safe and familiar location that is a sense of closure and relief. As a quick wrap-up, this level employs a few pretty clear tactics that are used pretty routinely in video games to guide the player, but they are there for a reason, and that's because they work. They're effective at what they do. The change of space, the change of scenery, the change of light, all of these things are used to great effect, and they are testaments to why they are staples in game design for leading and guiding players throughout a level without just having them follow.